It's called the dead cat bounce. No, it's not PETA approved, but this is what we see when head coaches are fired and for some reason it galvanizes the team. Or, maybe there's a systematic change, whether it's on their offense, whether it's with the play calling, that kind of fixes itself in 1 week. We saw it with Jeff Saturday. We saw it with Antonio Pierce. And maybe we see it with the Jets team here, because it's not a Jets team that's completely devoid of talent. They're an extremely talented bunch. We've seen great performances from the defense. It's been a little up and down with Aaron Rodgers. And I will say maybe one major concern here is that he's been taking some big hits. We saw last week, the footage of him crawling on the ground, grimacing in pain. So if they can get some pressure on him, maybe it's going to be a long night for this Jets offense. But still, I feel like we're seeing sizable movement in the market. And I feel like in my gambling gut, it feels like the Jets would be the right side here.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I'm going to be on the Jets tonight. And also, you mentioned the whole dead coach bounce, dead cat bounce.
Dead cat, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good. Look, let's drop Robert Saleh on the floor. That wouldn't be good. No, I do think that behind the scenes, the real key for this game is the demotion of Nathaniel Hackett. And oddly enough, there were plenty of reports that Robert Saleh was planning on doing that or in the midst of doing that anyway as the team's offensive coordinator. And then all of a sudden, Saleh takes the fall, Ulbrich gets promoted, and he also decides, okay, I'm going to demote Nathaniel Hackett. And remember, this was an Aaron Rodgers call, essentially. He and Hackett go back to Green Bay together where they had a lot of success, but that was a while back, and sometimes the game evolves. It changes. Maybe you don't change with it. Maybe you do. But the Jets clearly need some sort of infusion here when it comes to the offensive side of the football. I mean, they have been moribund. And also, look at Breece Hall. We thought he was going to have a monster season. He's averaging like 3.3 yards per carry. Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked great. So now you have Todd Downing making calls on the offense. He's done this before. OC of the Raiders in 2017, for the Titans in 2021 and 2022. And if you break it all down very simply, the Jets offense can't be much worse, I don't think. They are 25th in the league in scoring. They are 27th in total offense. They are dead last when running the football. So even a small improvement against a Bills team that is in a bad spot, third straight road game, I think I see why the money is coming in on New York. I will be on the Jets as well.
Yeah, I think we need to touch on the Bills a bit because, like you said, there are two sides to the coin. So it's not just tailing the Jets. You would be fading the Bills a little bit as well. So you mentioned their schedule. It's been really tough as of late. Like you said, third straight road game and not against easy opponents either. Starting with that loss against the Ravens, lost 35-10 on the road. Then they go and play a close one against the Texans and lose 23-20 in very disappointing fashion. I think the bigger takeaway is what the defense has not been doing. Gave up 331 yards to the Texans and C.J. Stroud. And against the Ravens, Derrick Henry ran for 199 yards. This game was not even remotely close. So for me, it looks like the Bills are world beaters when they play these bad teams, but then they fall back to earth when they're playing like some of the better teams in the NFL. So I think that there are questions on the Bills side as well. But to me, why I'm not playing a side in this game is that both sides feels a little volatile to me because as bad as the Bills are, against some of this top tier competition, they still have Josh Allen, and it's hard to fade that guy because he can be a one-man wrecking crew. On the other side of the ball, we've expected big things from Aaron Rodgers, but some of the numbers haven't lined up, and he does look older, and it does look like if you get some pressure on him, he is not extremely fleet of foot. So I feel like there are big sabotage factors lurking for both sides and both teams here. So I feel like for me, I would lean more towards a total, which I know it's low, but it's been creeping down, sitting at 41 now. Or I'm going to go with a field goal prop, and I'm through field goals. But it feels like this is a good spot for the Bills and to bet on Tyler Basco over 1.5 field goals. Because if you look at the Jets, one bright spot for their team this year has been how good they have been defending the red zone. If you look at touchdown percentage in the red zone, one of the top teams in the NFL, allowing opponents to score touchdowns on only 41% of their trips in the red zone. So I feel like for me, that equates to Tyler Bass. He's been pretty solid this year, 8 of 10 field goals. So I think that's the way I'm going to play it. Jenks, is there any other angle you see when it comes to Bills and Jets?
Boring. A field goal prop? I mean, look, money's money. So if you like the bet, and that was very good analysis, then you like the bet. But I also think there's merit to that. And in a lower scoring game, which is what I expect, then I think field goals might be the play here. I think that's a smart pick, Chelsea. I really like the under here. And part of it is, well, look at the Bills offensively where James Cook says he's going to play. Still listed as questionable. I believe him. But Khalil Shakir is also questionable as well. And then defensively for the Bills, Ed Oliver is out. I think the Bills being in this spot, playing on the road for 3 straight games, kind of wears them down a little bit. They may or may not have all of their offensive weapons intact on that offense. And then I do expect a boost from the Jets offense. And you can say, well, if you like the under, then you expect the Jets to explode on offense? No. They've been terrible, but just a little bit better should be enough to cover or win this game outright. And also I think weather will be a factor as well. It's not going to be necessarily gross, but it's going to be wet and cold. And you're going to have winds from 10 to 20 miles an hour at the Meadowlands. And you know how sometimes you get a feel for a game. And for me, when I look at these two teams and how they perform recently, I feel like a cold, maybe misty under in the AFC East at the Meadowlands is the play. So I'll lean to the under.
Well, especially when you have an interim head coach, because I would imagine that the game plan's not going to be like supremely complicated when it comes to the offense, right? If somebody is just taking the reins over. So normally when you look at divisional games, I feel like unders are normally the play in general. And I'm wondering, I feel like there's going to be a play tonight that I'm going to see and I wish I would have taken. And obviously, I would be telling you about it if I knew what it was. But I feel like there is going to be something in the player prop world, whether it's Breece Hall getting more carries, maybe they go with Braylon Allen. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm wondering if they're going to use Breece Hall in a bigger way. Because last game kind of split the backfield, only had 9 of the 14 carries. It was Allen that got the other 5. Jenks, do we see a reemergence of Breece Hall tonight? It feels stupid to me that they're not using him more. Like, he only had 1 catch for 15 yards. What are you doing? This guy's good. Get him in the game.
Know. I agree. And it's not exactly the same, but there's a Commanders analogy that I would use here, which is last year when Eric Bieniemy was the OC, and the thought was, why aren't you handing the ball off more to Ryan Robinson Jr.? This guy's a stud in the backfield, and you're not using him. Now, he's not as known of a commodity as Breece Hall, but sometimes an offensive coordinator will get into his head and say, oh, I'm going to throw a lot. I'm going to throw a lot. I'm going to throw a lot. I have Aaron Rodgers. That's all well and fine. You also have a spectacular talent in the backfield. Why aren't you using this guy more? Well, now guess what? Washington has a new offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury. They're more balanced. Ryan Robinson Jr., even though he didn't play on Sunday, has had a fantastic season. So just maybe now that you have a different OC calling the plays tonight, that you will see Breece Hall get fed more or at least used more out of the backfield, Chelsea, because as we know, he can do it all.